Because I can't leave things alone. And yet I'm not OCD. I think I overall, and again, I'm not any kind of PhD or BSc or any kind of psychologist, or psychiatrist or anything of the sort. But I think in the Lego community, seems to be um, a higher statistic of people who, I won't say OCD, but I mean, I always feel a little out of sorts when my collection is not in a proper sense. Um, I wouldn't say perfectionist either, although there are a lot of perfectionists in the Lego community. Um, I know that there are specific builders who will only build with new bricks. They won't touch or work with older bricks or used bricks. They want to only build with new ones and then display it and then start over with something else. There are a few people out there like that. I've met them. They're wonderful. I am not like that. I have very, very old pieces and very, very well used pieces. So, but I love this community. I always love this community. It's one of my favorite in my entire life, pre-internet. But I couldn't leave this alone. So this is the original. I mentioned this yesterday. The back end of the Invader, which I always found a little wanting. So this thing, the top wing pops off, and then the engine pops off. And the engine is actually built upside down, studs down. I didn't like it from the get-go. I thought it was a deficiency. I can see why they did it that way, but in the end, I mean, I do love the Invader that came out a few years back as a gift with purchase, and I made sure I got a few. So there's my other one over there. But when I was retrofitting the Renegade, so like all the parts and pieces would go together, all the separate parts and pieces. So this is the original there and there with the hookies, and they do not interface well with the Renegade. So as you saw in my video yesterday, I changed all that up to old style Technic bricks and old style pins, 1x2 with pins, and I did all of them. And in that process, there we go. In that process, I had to, again, pins there. You can see the pins there, and the very holy, but the 2 Technic bricks there. Same thing, pins on there, and then also pins on here. I mean, 1x2 bricks there, Technic bricks, and then pins on there. And the deficiency yesterday was that this back end piece, wherever I put it over here. Yes, this back end piece on the back. Now, again, if I recall correctly, and again, I don't have my Invader out here. I was actually disappointed by that these things did not separate from this little back module. They didn't separate. It was just this. The original Renegade Invader only had that part, this part, and then this was all one part on the back. It was only 3 pieces. But they decided to make this 4 or 5 pieces. So you got the engine by itself, and you got this top wing by itself. I never really understood that. I mean, you could just put the wing back here, down here in the bottom if you wanted to, I guess. And the engine here, and the wing there. I didn't see a need to have them separate. Maybe aesthetics or something. But what I wanted to do, because again, converting everything over to the 1x2 Technic bricks and the 1x2 pin bricks with pin, I wanted to be able to basically combine these pieces again into one unit and put the pins on there. So I tried, and this is temporarily the best I could come up with. It is one piece, the wing and the engine right there, and there's the 2 pins, 1, 2, this whole thing's joined. So I don't have the inverted 45-degree slope like you see in these yellow pieces here. I don't have any spares of those. I'm sure they're in my collection, but I couldn't be bothered to find them right now, or else I would have put those right around this 1x2 brick with pin. I'm gonna find some, maybe Bricklink, or I don't care. But so this is not complete yet. As soon as I put the little inverted slopey pieces on there. But basically I changed the white or the yellow 1x4 brick, yellow 1x4 brick with 2L 1x2 modified plates, and those hold 1x3 inverted slope, which holds the wing on as nice as it can be, and the engine's still in the same spot. I got rid of a lot of the 1x2 trans red, and I just put 2 1x1 trans reds in there. You know, it's a quick, dirty fix-ish. It's not that pretty. When you put it on the back of the Invader cockpit, it looks fine. I think the line's still there, which is important to me. So it does the job, and it comes off easy, and you can put it now on the Renegade like that. Ta-da! Renegade. No, the lines don't line up. The yellow doesn't line up, but whatever. The Renegade didn't have the yellow highlight strip in the same spot as the Invader. But then again, the Invader was the scale of the original, and this one's, you know, almost quote unquote twice as big as the original. So I wasn't expecting the yellow lines to line up. So that's what I did. I'm happy with it for now. I don't think I'm going to change it too much unless I come up with other inspiration. That was my inspiration. One of my plans, so that's the original back together, and this is the new one. So watch, see? Pins, Technibrick, ta-da! Again, old school, I get it. So here's the two of them together. Overall, they look identical, and the back end still looks pretty much the same. Underneath looks pretty much the same. So slight differences. I'm gonna stick with mine for now. I still have the original over there. What I was planning on doing, and it would have been a bigger overhaul, was to change the style, and you can see what I mean by style. So I'll take that piece, I'll just take this piece, or that piece, doesn't matter. So that's a nice octagon, and basically all of these connection points are exactly the same octagon, right? Whereas this has two slopes coming down from the top, same slope basically up from the bottom. So if you hold it together like here, right there, it could be, you know, pretty much the same. The issue is it's a little inside baseball, but they're all 6 wide. They can be 6 wide, but then I would basically have to overhaul the entire Invader basically and make it wider, which might take away from the sleekness of it. So I might from scratch build a new Invader, like the Renegade, and use this cockpit and everything. I don't know yet. I'm debating, pontificating. I do like the Invader for its sleekness and its ability to look basically cut for cut like the original, and I like the Renegade for not doing cut for cut, beat for beat the original. I didn't mention how much I hate the landing gear. Well, how much I dislike the landing gear. It's the weakest part of the entire thing, but it is what it is. This has been fun. I don't know how much more I'm going to do. I think everything that I wanted to do is done, except for the extension on the front here, which I'm still, you know, thinking about. It's just, I would love to, I mentioned before, basically duplicate this out here and just move this forward, and see how that looks, because then it would look just like, take these two things off, like that, right? This is proud, as they say. This is proud of this one. It's sticking out farther. And this was I think one of the selling features of the original Renegade is the asymmetry of the thing. And this thing basically, besides extending the cockpit to compensate for that asymmetry, it just doesn't do it for me. The base has to have that asymmetry. The base has the asymmetry in the original, and it didn't have it in the new one. The entire base is an exact duplicate from one side to the other side. And to me, that's not the Renegade, the original. That's not the style of the original. And if we're reissuing the original, then the style should have had at least that homage to the original, where the base has the asymmetrical. And again, I mentioned this before. There was lots of discussion on Lugnet about it. There was lots of discussion. I'm not saying it was like pages and pages and pages of discussion, like shaking my fist in the general direction of Denmark. But there was lots of discussion about the asymmetry and the appreciation thereof of the original Renegade. Now, when you look at them side by side and get rid of everything else, that's like, so you just see those two. They look compatible. They look, because this thing sticks way out front and this thing sticks way out front, right? But this is due to the cockpit being bigger. The cockpit's tiny here. The cockpit here is tinier than the original Renegade. It's smaller than the Batrax and it's smaller than the Invader. It's just smaller. It's the base that was bigger on the one side. And I think that's fantastic. So anyway, I may work on that. I don't know, because again, at this point in my life, I don't know if I'm going to buy a second copy unless I find one really cheap. If I do find a second copy, I might, because I'm happy with this thing as it is, and I don't want to like tear it apart to rebuild the front end, the bigger. If I get a second copy, as at that point, I may do that extension. The one thing also I wanted to note before I close this entire thing off, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in the future, and it was the one thing that annoyed me about the 918 instructions they had online for the 1040-497 alternate build of the 918, is that when you built the original 918 according to their directions, the pilot was laying basically at a 45-degree angle, like way back, because he couldn't fit underneath the canopy if he was sitting up straight. So this is one of the reasons why I rebuilt literally the entire interior of the canopy of the cockpit, and the bottom part, so that the guy can sit straight like every other pilot in every other ship, quote unquote, almost. And so when you close it, it doesn't hit his head, and he's sitting straight. This cockpit, and again, I think it's not being lazy, but it's just the way it is, the way they build these things now. The front guy has to lay way back. Not as bad as that guy in that guy there in the 918. The 918 guy was almost like flat on his back when he closed the cockpit lid. But this guy has to be at a really funky angle, because otherwise you couldn't close it if you sit him up straight. You can't close the cockpit, right? And again, I had a problem with that with the 918 when I first built it. Also, the non-retractable landing gear. And so I killed two birds with one stone on the 918. So you can retract the landing gear on it fully, just like the 924 and the 928. Jeff and I had a good time talking about that for a long time. But and the guy's sitting up straight, and he's in the middle of a wonderful cockpit. Look how wonderful that cockpit is. And it's, again, all the pieces that came with the set. so I'm very happy with that. I'm extremely happy with that. I think it's one of my favorite things I've ever done. Taking a Lego build and just building it better, if I want to say that. And so I'm very happy with my version of the 918. The rest of it is basically identical. Because the wings, like all the interior outside these here wings that hold them on, is identical. This back end's identical. What I did change a little bit was this little doodad, this little antenna. Like, I always found that their antenna on the instructions was floppy, and you had to set it to be straight up and down vertical. This one you can't move; it's always vertical. It's built that way. But in the end, I love my 918. But then again, 918 is still my favorite classic space set. So of course they're. But after working on many iterations to get that happening, the landing gear, I haven't done it yet. I should honestly go on Bricklink to see if I can find those landing pads and do it over here, because these landing pads are really annoying to me. Every time I move this thing, one of the landing pads collapses, because that's just the way it is. And I get it, and most of the times they're up like that, right? Just have to keep on pushing them down. It's annoying. It's really annoying. To me, it's a deficiency. Not a huge deficiency, not, shaking my fist in the general direction of Denmark. But working on this yesterday, I'm working on the Invader yesterday, where I have all these parts and pieces, and I like doing this now because it's a lot easier than putting this on here. Yay! That's awesome. And I can put this in the back here. So I'm happy that this is basically Blatron, the 3 sets. Now, I don't plan on getting another Renegade, but I do want to build the walker, and they have the alternate instructions for the walker. And I do want to attempt the pad tracks myself. But again, I would need another full set of this to do that, because I like this thing. I mean, I about the landing gear and about the connection points, but that's just me, shaking my fist at a few raindrops. This is a fantastic build. I've mentioned how much fun it was to build, how exciting it was to build, how interesting for me it was to build this entire thing, and say, how is this going to work? What's this for? How is this in 5 steps from now? How is it going to look? I couldn't have been, I was so happy building the Renegade from beginning to end. And as I mentioned, the cute little notes inside here about why it's changed from the original. I thought it was brilliant. I love stories. I love the story with the Renegade. Yeah, so I don't want to take this one apart. I don't mind modifying it like I did the other day. But I know that they released the Invader. It's got to be 2 years ago now. I guess for purchase, I think 2 Januaries ago. I could be wrong on that. Somebody more up to date on when they release sets will tell me. And so when they were designing the Renegade, I'm sure they took some ideas that whoever designed the Invader. I don't know if the person who designed the Invader also designed the Renegade. I have no idea. But I mean, just looking at this here. Well, I hope this doesn't fall. The lack of, this is the Invader and this is the Renegade connection point. Now down here it's still 6 wide, but up here is the 2 slopes. As you see, 2 slopes, and this is just 1 slope here. It would be nice to redesign, and I mentioned this earlier, it would be nice to redesign the Invader to be Renegade style for the connection points. But I think that would be a huge overhaul and remove the aesthetically pleasing look of the Invader. It would lose its very, very smooth lines. So I don't think I'm gonna do it. I'll debate. I would have to order a whole bunch of those, these 45-degree slope pieces with the piece on top or the piece on the bottom and stuff. Like, I don't have any of those, hardly any of those. They're not old style pieces. So, so that's basically what's preventing me from actually just going gung-ho and just having a great time designing more stuff for the Blatron line here, and to modify these things to be more consistent across sets. And as I say, the deficiencies are very, very minimal, but they're there. The deficiencies of all these sets were very, very minimal, but they are there. I'm glad they did this. I'm glad they're not ignoring their past. I'm glad the Lego company is not ignoring, as I'm pulling this down, I'm just glad that they're not ignoring their past and re-releasing these kind of things. And not, like, a bunch of years back, again, when I was on Lugnet, they re-released the Black Sea Barracuda. They re-released the Metroliner. They re-released some castle sets. They also had, I think, one of the first fan-based designs was a Lego castle set. I think it was, I can't remember. I think Larry was involved. I can't remember, it doesn't matter. But some of my friends back then, and they submitted or were asked to submit designs, and they produced them. My friend Chris and Mark did their own little space theme, which was, I thought, fantastic, and they should have ran with it, the Lego company, but they didn't. Whatever. but they listen to fans, and the fact that they have builders on-prem on their salary that design these things and these things as a obviously a homage to the original, but not the original. I'm saying not. I will not ever say better than the original, but an homage to the original. And this is a fantastic set. This is one of my most favorite sets they ever produced. It's not as, and it's very hard for me to differentiate between my love for nostalgia. And if you know me, you know I love nostalgia. I love quoting movies, like old movies. I love rewatching old TV shows that I loved. I will watch WKRP anytime it's on. I'll watch it. If I see clips of WKRP, I'm stopping to watch that. I love nostalgia. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff that made me happy when I was a kid. Still makes me happy today. But making a new one, and again, not like a reboot, like I won't say mediocre, but the reboots of Knight Rider over the years. They tried to resurrect it 2 or 3 times now. I watched them, and they were left wanting. Some are really good in and of themselves, and they got canceled. I had a discussion, but the Lego company, for me, for what I've noticed, when they go and they tackle something that's in their past, and they come up with this, right? Or they come up with this, right? Or they come up with this, right? Which is a direct homage to one of their original sets. That was a huge set. Like, if anybody's doing, like, there was a book, the Lego history of sets, and the top 100 best sets. This is in it. This set right here is in it. That set's in it, but this set's in it. And I don't know if the Invader was in it, but who cares? But people knew the Renegade. Fans my age who did not get on the internet until they were in their 30s ish, loved the Renegade. And here they are, rebooting it. And they knocked it out of the park. Is it gonna supplant the original? No. It's a different set, but it's still fantastic. Is this gonna supplant the Galaxy Explorer? No, but it's a fantastic set in and of itself. I'm gonna go off on a quick tangent, but it's completely related. One of my favorite YouTube channels, one of my absolutely favorite by any stretch of the history of YouTube for me, is Steve Shives. He is a huge Star Trek fan, like I am, but he's also a person who plays, I guess he's somewhat related to the business of television production or whatever. I'm not sure if I don't know his background, but he seems to know the ins of the production stuff. So, but he does, I won't say pick apart, but he does have legitimate pluses and minuses to all the series. His least favorite is Lower Decks, and Lower Decks has been one of my most favorite shows because it's fun for me. But his points are valid as to why he doesn't like Lower Decks. His points are valid as to why he doesn't like Voyager as much as the rest of the series. I adore Voyager, but then I came at it differently than he did. One of his main pet peeves with Lower Decks, and it's 100% legitimate, and a lot of people have the same issue, is that Lower Decks, they call them remember berries. That seems to be the new token, the word token of big business appealing to the nostalgic factor just to get people's eyes on it. They say season 3 of Star Trek Picard was just about remember berries. Remember this? Remember that? Moriarty shows up. Remember that? Remember all the Will Riker whistling, all that stuff, all of it, like the entire 10 episodes. Rose shows up, Ensign, what's her name, shows up. For crying out loud, Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and 2. Shelby. Shelby shows up. And it was just constant reference upon reference upon reference to previous shows, sometimes basically for the sake of just having a reference in there, so people go, ooh, I remember that, and that made me happy. I didn't take Star Trek season 3 that way. I really didn't. The most egregious one that he had a problem with was when Seven and Raffi were on the bus, and the guy's listening to his crappy music on the ghetto blaster, and it was exactly the same actor that was in Star Trek For the Voyage Home, listening to some punk rock band, and it was exactly almost word for word, beat for beat as the original. Excuse me, sir, can you turn it down? And if you remember Star Trek 4, that was one of the funniest scenes in the movie, and they just basically recreated it in this one. So as a Remember Berry, I have no problem with that as long as the entire story isn't that. And it's just that is actually that wasn't part of the plot at all. It was just thrown in there. It didn't help the plot along. It didn't help anything else. I mean, Raffi and Seven were talking about what they had to do for a little bit before they were interrupted by this guy. So that helped the plot along. They're helping us go through the plot. And all of a sudden there's this, 30-second or 45-second Remember Berry from Star Trek 4. Same guy, same actor, same, let's say the same bus, same music, same whatever. Can you turn it down? and yet it was subtly different because the guy's like, oh, I'm sorry, I like this music. Instead of like, and he held his shoulder because of course Spock gave him the neck pinch in the first one. I enjoyed that scene. I really enjoyed that scene. Yes, it had zero to do with the plot. It didn't have to do anything with the plot. You don't have to have every single thing in a story that you're watching for half an hour or an hour or 3 hours in a movie to have something to do with the story. You can have the world building, whatever you want to call it, just throwing it in there. Like, I got in this nice discussion with my friend about people always say that J.R.R. Tolkien needed a copy editor. And again, I'm not going to fault them for that position. Because again, geeks like me, who have read Lord of the Rings 20 times in my life, probably more, Tom Bombadil literally had nothing to do with the rest of the story. Didn't get referenced the second they left. That's what cottage. It never was talked about before, and it was never talked about after. Now, world building and the Lost Tales and blah blah blah, he gets mentioned, but in the actual story, Lord of the Rings, Tom Bombadil had nothing to do with the plot. Zero to do with the plot. So should it be in there? For me, it's a huge yes. it's an absolutely huge yes. You go through your day and a million things happen that have nothing to do with your story of your life, and they're all part of yours, like part of your experience. I love that experience. I visualize. I remember being 14 years old, reading about Tom Bombadil in this cottage, and all of them hanging out there and talking about the ring and blah blah. And he puts it on and he doesn't disappear. I'm 57 years old. I remember reading that for the first time when I was 14. You don't think I didn't? I loved that part of the story. I love the whole story. Don't get me wrong, but I remember that specific vision in my mind, and it didn't have to pay off somewhere later in the story. You don't have to have a setup and takedown. This isn't 2.5 Men, where literally every single scene set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline, set up, punchline. That was the entire show with Charlie Sheen. It got repetitive. You knew that there's just going to be something, say something, and somebody says something else, and there's your laugh. There was the payoff was the instant gratification. Say something, boom, payoff. Say something, say something. Charlie does something stupid or whatever. Alan does. I got so repetitive, and again, more tangents. This is why I love the Ashton Kutcher's run on the show more than Charlie Sheen's run on the show. Because at least there was some thought there to have a story for the episode instead of just punchline. It was like, oh my goodness. But I do not have a problem at all with Remember Berries as long as they're not overused. They should be there. Tom Bombadil should have been in Lord of the Rings. It should never been edited out if somebody wants to edit it out. Don't care. It's world building. Now, it shouldn't all be world building or world remembering or world whatevering. It should not all be that. But for me, it makes the story a little brighter. It makes it a little more colorful. It makes it a little more whatever. And so I had no problem with Star Trek Season 3. I had some problems with 2 and 1. Season 2 and 1 regard. I'll be the first to say I had some problem with it, but I liked them. I liked watching all 10 episodes. 2 got a little long in the tooth, a little bit. and again, Is it canon? I don't care. I don't care. That's one thing I love about Steve, and him and I are on the same page. I'm here for, I don't want it to be all non-canon, like it makes no sense to be in the Star Trek universe. But we already knew about Picard's mom from the TNG a little bit. And so what happened in season 2 had nothing to do with Picard's, like that broke from the story, from the canon from before. But whatever. John Delancey showed up. Done. And Q was an integral part of the story. Some people are like, why is Q even there? Well, that's the whole point of the story. Q and Jean-Luc doing their Q Jean-Luc stuff. I know, I loved it. I loved season 2. I didn't love season 2 as much as I love season 3. Season 3, for me, knocked it out of the park. For me, it was an utterly fantastic season of Star Trek. And yes, it was 100% a lot of remember berries. A lot of it. But there's a whole story there that if you're just getting all caught up in all the, they're talking about this again, they're talking about this again, they're talking about this again. There was a huge furor that they had changelings, not the spoilers, they had changelings in season 3 because that was a DS9 thing. Who cares? It's in the Star Trek universe. It's literally in the Star Trek universe. There was changelings in TNG. Not, I don't think the same changelings, but Wesley was falling in love with this girl. She was a changeling. I don't think they're the same changelings from the whatever from DS9. I don't care. Oh, you can't have changelings. That was a DS9 thing. If DS9 wants to make a 10 episode series, they can talk about changelings. No, it's in the Star Trek universe. They had the space dock, which was a prominent feature in season 3. The space dock that was in, wait for it, Star Trek 3. The Search for Spock. And Voyage Home. And it was a prominent part of Star Trek Picard season 3 in universe decades or centuries later. I don't care. They're space dock. Awesome. Like, what else are you going to do with it? Why wouldn't they bring that back? Are you just going to go build this new? This is one thing I hate about most science fiction shows, is there was no consistency. That's what I like about Star Wars overall, by the way. Their ships from one generation to the next generation were remarkably the same. They didn't, oh, we need a new ship. Although they got lots because, again, there's so many Lego sets. But the Millennium Falcon went across decades. There it is. Sure. Is that a remember berry? No. So anyway, this is me going off on a tangent. So all this to say, to get back to this, is that when the Lego company, for me, and again, I don't keep track of other sets that I don't care about, so it doesn't matter for me. But I'm sure maybe other themes don't have the same consistent value of the new being as wonderful as the original. But I'm sorry, I don't know. I think in the Lego context for classic space that their reissuing of classic sets that are meaningful to the fans, like deeply meaningful. The Galaxy Explorer for the longest time was the #1 set on LugNet. It was the #1 set. Sometimes I think it was replaced by the Metroliner, but train heads. But for the longest time, the original Galaxy Explorer was the most voted the #1 set on LugNet, and I think that's changed now. I don't know if there's any kind of poll as the #1 set. I wouldn't know what it is. I mean, there's some stiff competition. I mean, a lot of people love the Black Sea Barracuda. I'm not faulting for that. It's a fantastic set. I keep on meaning to try to build it because I never bought it, but I think I have all the parts here. Or the Metroliner, or the first modular building, the Cafe Corner, or whatever it was called. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I have 2 over there, and they're in a box. I think the entire Lego universe has become so fragmented that it's very, very hard to pick a #1 set, because some people are Chima and some people are Team Ninjago, and some people are Team Friends, and some people. And again, when I saw that Friends modern house at the store, I was so tempted to buy it, because as a set, forget Friends, as a set, that thing was gorgeous. It's absolutely one of my most favorite boxes, my favorite box arts that they've ever produced. Just looking at the set, I wanted it. The picture in the box. And it was a Friend set. And I'm going, I don't have any Friend sets up here, like 0. But I wanted that modern house. So for me, they are still batting 1,000 overall. I found for the stuff I want, and that's the whole thing. I walked into the Lego store, as I said. I walked into the Lego store last Friday, and every shelf, all 3 walls were just packed with sets that they're trying to sell, obviously. And you see people over there talking about those sets, those specific themes over there, and over there those themes, and over there those themes, and over there, and they have all their little niches, all their little loves and appreciations, and they don't. I don't know if they cross streams. I don't know if they. Oh, I love Ninjago and I love Town, or I love racers, street racers, whatever they're called. That Josh always seems to get everything, and I love Technic, or although those things seem to be coexisting, because they seem to come out with all the Porsches and stuff, and Technic as well as the speed racers, but and the Marios and all that stuff, and the architectures and the other ideas, like the jazz band. I wouldn't buy that. I would never buy the jazz band. I think it's called the jazz band. I would never buy the Rolling Stones logo. I would not be remotely interested in building that. I have no interest in building that. The DeLorean, I had an interest in building that, but it's too big and too bulky, and I have no place to put it, so I didn't buy it. And so, but the Lego, but other people are, and so let them get the sets they want, and let me get the sets I want. But for me, as I keep on saying, is that their designers are doing a fantastic job. Overall, and maybe there'll become a day again, like in the late 90s, where I walk into Lego store and go, there's not a piece in here that I want, which happened to me in the late 90s overall. But even then, I can't even say that. There were some sets in the late 90s, not a lot, very minimal. Oh, that's nice. They did good. But right now, you walk to the Lego store, and again, if I had money, time, and space, I'd probably buy out half the store and just build for months. I wanted the Coliseum, didn't get it because there's no place for it. I wanted the Titanic. Sure, nope, no money. And well, money's not really the issue. It's the space and time. I do not have the space and time to build the Titanic. There's no space here. I have the ISD sitting there. I have no place to put it. The thing is huge. I've seen it. I've seen people drop it. But so I am pro Lego company. I think they're still doing a fantastic job. I think they keep on doing this stuff for me, and they keep on the 0.0001% of stuff they produce for me. Perfect. The 99.99 stuff they're producing for everybody else. They keep their bottom line in the black. You keep on doing that. I'll keep on walking to your store every single month, and I'll keep on buying stuff off the brick wall. Your designers haven't let me down yet. That Saturn V, wonderful. The boat in the bottle, love it. The Winnie the Pooh sitting right there, fantastic. My bonsai tree, which is right over here, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Even this little tiny, from the small, the mundane, even this little tiny shuttle, which I built a nice little stand for. So, because shuttle's one of my favorite things. I absolutely love it. So, just keep on doing what you're doing, and I'll keep on doing what I'm doing. And I am pro Lego company, as long as they keep on doing what they're doing. And it might not be for me. They might keep on producing sets, not for me. And I'm still going to be pro Lego company, because they have been very, very good. They've had some missteps, just like Star Trek has. They've had some, what are you doing here? Again, just like Star Trek has. But overall, I did not depreciate my love for the company, my love for the hobby, my love for all the people I've met over the last, well, since the internet started, since 1997. So we're almost coming up to 30 years of me hanging out with people from, never met in the real world. My friends that I've known for almost, over 25 years now, that I've never met in person. And I love all of them. So anyway, the Lego company keeps on doing what they're doing. I'll keep on doing what I'm doing. As I say, my deficiencies of this guy pale in comparison to my appreciation for this guy. And I want this guy too. But I will mention, to be clear, this is this guy, which I have modified, obviously. Not that I had to modify him, but I wanted to modify, so the interface with that. That was a deficiency. When I talk about the 104087, there's nothing in the 104087 that I felt like I had to modify to make it better for me. It was perfect out of the box. And I think I've mentioned in my review, the only deficiency that the 10497 had, it didn't have the little bass. That was kind of not necessarily the most important thing of the Galaxy Explorer, but I did have that little command bass with the antenna on it. Little thing. So that's it, that's all. I'm going to go do other stuff now. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna clean up the room a little bit. It's not looking messy, thankfully, but it does have stuff on the floor. Josh did pull out all of the Bionicle bits because I had to tow to that. I don't know what this. Oh, I'll do this in another separate video. Everybody out there, stay safe, take care, and I will talk to you soon.